Welcome to the Own Your Best Life podcast. I'm May Emson, your host, leadership and mindset coach. Here, we talk all things spiritual, mindset, business, leadership, and wellness for the modern seeker who wants to align their life with purpose and inspiration. We'll cover career changes, stress management, meditation, energy, intuition, and more. Each episode holds spiritual and practical tools to help you live a life of your wildest dreams without getting burnt out along the way. Ready to live a life on your own terms? This is the Own Your Best Life podcast. All right, so welcome friends to episode number 148 of the Own Your Best Life podcast. So I have had some big successes and changes in how I've made decisions that have led me to a life where I do work that I get paid to do and that I love. I have deeper relationships and connections with my inner voice, and my intuition has only gotten stronger over time. And I wanted to share it with you today because I know so many people struggle with how to make decisions and how to listen to their intuition. And so today's podcast is on this topic of some of my unconventional decision-making protocols that have served me well as I navigate a life of both practical responsibilities and living a life where I feel a sense of edge, adventure, and aliveness. So there are two protocols that have guided my decision-making, and it's something that has been always very natural to me, but as I see more of you struggle with decision making, I wanted to share this with you so that you can understand how I think differently and why I seem to be consistently happy with my decisions while also having successful results. So the first thing I think about that is a little bit unconventional is that there are no right or wrong decisions. I remember that I was helping someone try to solve a decision-making conundrum. And as she was going back and forth through this decision-making misery, I saw that she thought that there was a right answer. And this became a pattern that I noticed, this idea of right and wrong, that there is one way to do something and only one way. And what I know to be true is that there are many decisions I made that seemed right or wrong at the time, but life will show you that they are different than what you originally thought. So things that seemed to be terrible decisions were actually good decisions because they led me down a path that I don't regret. And the reason this works is because I think more about what I want to learn through a decision. I think more about what is my period of growth right now. All of us are in periods of growth. When you think about different cycles of life that you might have had, you might have gone through points where you followed all the rules and you did things by the book, and you have the life that you have today. And maybe your period of growth is going to be bending the rules a bit, or bucking the rules, or creating new rules for yourself. And that's why I always go back to right now, what is the way that you want to make decisions is going to be what is the thing that you're trying to learn right now. And so when I think about that period of growth, I think about how does that relate to the decision that I am trying to make? And when you think about that age-old question, what do I want to do with my life next? Or where do I want to go with my career? This is all about the question of how do I want to spend my time and what do I want to learn? And I really notice if I'm not learning anything from a decision, if I'm really not learning anything from a decision, then it really doesn't matter what I choose, right? So they might have some decisions that you really could just make a decision and you realize, okay, this one doesn't matter because I'm not learning anything either way. But if you notice that there are different things that I will learn about yourself and myself, then the world will change around you to start molding to that path of discovery. I want you to almost think of it this way. A decision is like setting a path in motion. Sometimes we think There is a path, and I just go down it. I like to think that you are creating a path, that you are planting the seeds. And when we think about energy, energy is movement. Energy is not just taking something and making it different, but it is shifting. And so when you make decisions, you're shifting your life and you're starting down new paths. And so you will learn new things about yourself. You will learn new things about the world. You will learn new things about the people around you that you thought could only be a certain way when you make new decisions about them. And so I will contemplate that. I'll actually think, and I'll get to that level of specificity about a question, and I'll ask myself, what do I want to learn here? And I remember, for example, as I was thinking about creating a group coaching program when I was starting to sell out my private coaching, I wanted to learn more about creating group spaces where more people could have access to these life-changing tools that would help them figure out what's next, help them learn how to achieve more sustainably, create new paths for all of these change makers. I could have continued to sell out my one-on-one coaching and held that space. But what I saw was my growth was a different level of work. And I think every person is going to have a different period of growth. So you can see that that's so specific. That's specific to me. That's specific to where I'm at now. That's specific to the kind of work that I'm doing. And each of the decisions we make will have that level of specificity. But most of us don't even get there because we just run so quickly through our decision-making cycles that we don't actually notice what we are choosing. And because of that, we have the same exact thoughts and feelings and behaviors every single day. When in reality, you could be creating new ones and a new level of inner peace, a new level of wisdom, a new level of experience and happiness, a new level of just equanimity that you might not have had before. And so that is the opportunity that is available to us. That is what is always available when we think about these decisions we have to make. And if we didn't come to it with such a sense of, oh my goodness, this is such a burden, we would see it as a huge opportunity. And the ones I coach start seeing it that way. They realize that if I didn't come for coaching and think about this decision with a different sense of importance and this different sense of what if it could be different, what if there could be a better way besides what I'm currently thinking, they wouldn't have the life that they have now. They wouldn't have the thoughts that they're having now, and they wouldn't have the experiences that they're having today. So when you think about this process, right, and I talk about my example, I saw that there were a lot of people who wanted to make the most of their time on this planet. If I wanted to learn how to serve the people, I'd have to learn how to create bigger group spaces for more people that still allow that level of intimacy, that level of trust, and that level of human connection that cannot be replicated, but is I would say the secret sauce for the transformation that people receive when they have coaching. And the same thing happened. I want to give you another example when I was deciding about retreats and the timing of retreats. So I had a retreat come up during a meditation that I hadn't originally planned. And when you're in the world of creating events, and I'm sure many of you have done this before, if you're planning events, you're usually at least 6 months out to a year because you need that much lead time to create, the venue, to create the programming, to do all the things that need to be done to prep for a live in-person event. And I already had one scheduled out in August. This was back in September that I started having this come up in my meditation. But for me, since I am on a journey of following my intuition, I did. So part of my decision-making process is to learn who you are as you make the decision. Are you someone who trusts themselves? Are you someone who learns to figure out how to make things work no matter what? Are you someone who needs to do something different than you've done before. We often make decisions based on these automatic behaviors of what we've always done. So asking yourself if this decision-making process still works for the stage of life that you're at is how you will end up finding out whether or not you want to replicate that decision-making process or whether you want to try something new. Or am I really heading to someplace else and I really want to be making decisions as if I am already that person, which is why it's really important that we do identity work. And that is such a big part of the coaching that I do with people. So, of course, for that story, the retreat one, I ended up holding that retreat. And I remember it came to me that even if it was just for one person, it would be worth it. Because we always have that like ego mind, and then we have that more higher consciousness mind. The ego mind is usually fearful. So this is the voice that tells you no one will show up. You will lose out on all this money. This is a bad idea. This is not financially sound. And the more expansive mind, the more higher consciousness mind will tell you why it will work and the reason you're actually doing this for and how to make it work and how to lift yourself up to a place where that ends up happening. And so there's always these different paths you can create. You can create a self-fulfilling path and prophecy where you limit yourself and you limit the experiences you get to have. But there's also another self-fulfilling prophecy where you get to raise yourself up to a level of experience that you want to have. And so for me, I held the vibration. When we talk about what does it mean to hold the vibration, it means what are the thoughts, energy, and emotions that you have. So I was holding the vibration of what it felt like at the end of my last retreat. And at the end of that last retreat, I knew the way that it has changed people's lives. I knew the level of depth that we went to. I knew that it was meaningful and that it was worthwhile to do. It was solid. It was something I know. And so I went forward holding that vibration. And if I held that vibration, what I ended up doing was being able to talk to people about the retreat from that level of energy, from that level of knowing. And so you're going to have a decision where you're not sure, well, what is this one going to be like? But maybe you've had an experience in the past that is somewhat similar. And even though you went through all the ups and downs of the work that it takes for you to have those results, which does happen, you have those results and you can look back and say, okay, I remember when I crossed that finish line, when I had that final output, when the outcome was achieved, what it felt like. And you know what? This one's a little bit different, but there's still some commonalities here that I can make and bridge over and borrow that belief that you had from that past experience into that new one. And then what you'll find is that you would rather stretch yourself up. I would always encourage you to stretch yourself up into a new reality that you desire versus coming back to the ones that you've had that you know exactly what that looks like. But again, this is for people who want to grow. This is people who want progress and positive change in their life. And so if that's not you, if you're feeling like I don't want any positive changes in my life, I want everything to stay status quo, then that decision probably won't be for you. And so there's no better or worse. You might just be at a place where that's just not feeling great for you, and maybe you've got a lot of other things going on. You can barely keep your head above water. Well, what I want to encourage you to evaluate is whether or not you're consistently seeking to expand or you're consistently seeking to stay the same. And that is how I ended up with 7 people on the retreat and having moments where they said to me, you created this for me. I think this is why you created it. And so sometimes it will not feel like the way things are supposed to happen, But we want to be able to allow for that. That's how some of the best relationships occur. That's how some of the best connections get made. That's sometimes how the best decisions get made as well. So keep yourself open to this idea, right, of this protocol, which is there is no right or wrong decisions. There is only a decision that I make that is aligned with the growth that I want to have and the thing I want to learn through making this decision. And so for me, I wanted to learn what it was like to continue to follow my intuition in bigger and bigger ways. And then I did. And I realized, keep going, keep following that, right? Building more trust. All right, the second protocol is this: knowing that the decisions will be revealed, which means focus on the present decision you have today, right now. I think it's okay to not know the answer immediately to a decision. I think a lot of people feel fear around it, but I don't. I've learned over time and through a lot of experience and coaching many people through decisions that it's okay to know that new decisions will be revealed over time. When we're not in the present moment, we often try to anticipate the multitude of decisions that we have to make before we ever have to make them. While there is a specific meditation and exercises that I use to help people anticipate obstacles and risks and pass forward, I also know that there are more decisions that you will make and more decisions that you will encounter than you need to make right now. So do you know enough to make that first decision? That's often all we need. You often don't even know what is the first decision that I'm making. For example, the first decision that I made when I realized that I needed to figure out what was next was that I'm ready. I'm ready. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what I needed to figure out. I didn't even know what my gifts were, how I was going to contribute to this. Well, I just knew that I was ready and that it was time. So that is one decision. And many of you might be like, yes, I'm ready, but I don't know what is next, so then I'm not going to go do it. And that's where many people just stay where they are. What you'll find is, unless you're making a decision that you cannot come back from, which I rarely find to be the case, you'll always have those examples, but most decisions that you're thinking of are not things you cannot come back from in any way, shape, or form. You know enough to make that first decision. So when I knew I was ready to figure out what was next, all I needed then was to be like open to discovery, open to looking for people that could help me, reading things that could help me, thinking, meditating, all the things, right? So when you have that first decision, it opens you up to the next decision, which is then, well, who and what and how. But starting first and being like, okay, I made that one decision is very important. You may not know enough to make that next decision, but you don't need to know that right now. I want you to think about when you fall in love with someone or you're creating a relationship with someone new. You often just need to know enough about how you feel about the current situation right now. Do you like this person as much as you could right now? How would you know if you will continue to enjoy their company until you meet them again and again, or until you say, okay, I like them now enough to want to meet with them again. And again, this is not just romantic relationships. This is be any relationship that you're creating, whether it's a friendship or a partnership. And each time staying in the present moment until it becomes so obvious that you really do want to spend more time and more time and more time together in the future. And so when you think about that, I often think, do you know enough? Do you feel enough to make the one decision right now, which is, do I want to make the next, date or schedule an event? And often you'll be like, yes, I know enough to know that. Or do I feel as much as I could right now for that person? Not do I think I will love them? Do I think I will marry them? Do I think we'll have this beautiful friendship forever and ever for the rest of our lives? Most of my friendships that I've created, I have sustained for decades. And I think one of the keys to success for it is that I'm always willing to let it go. Not from a place where I don't want to see the person again, but from a very light place of course we will continue to hang out if we want to. Of course that if it came to be that we couldn't, it doesn't mean anything except maybe physical circumstances. Of course we want to spend more time together when it makes sense to do so. And so there's no forcing mechanism. We must be friends forever and ever. It just naturally continues to evolve. And what you'll find is if you give yourself space for decisions to be made in that kind of lightness, you will have so much more sustainability with smaller things. Each seed you plant will have enough space to grow. And so instead of thinking I have to plant 1,000 seeds, you start realizing that as long as you're lovingly attentive and open to whatever is for the highest good for each of your interactions, each of the actions that you make, each of the decisions that you make, it isn't enough. It is more than enough to fuel you, to sustain you for lifetimes. I now have friendships that, I don't know, I made when I was like so young. And I'm always so grateful for them. And it is one of the most important things that I can imagine. And not just friendships, but family relationships too. Or relationships that I made while I was working that became friendships or even acquaintances. Often people will ask me, well, how do you meet the people that you coach? And many times there'll be people that I met maybe decades ago or years ago. And we don't know when we meet people why we meet them. And I think that that's such an important mystery to let exist in your life, to let life reveal decisions to you and the consequences and the results. So it's not like I met people early on thinking at some point I will work with them and coach with them, or that we will be on these journeys together. Absolutely not. But I think that's what's available for you if you don't ever put that kind of pressure onto your relationships. And that's what's available to you if you don't put that pressure on your decisions. And so I like decisions that I can let be enough. I like to just let that decision sit, to have space for the person that you have become through making that decision start to match up to that first decision that you made. And when you do that, you can evaluate it. You can notice, well, what has changed for me when I made that decision? Maybe it's a decision, very subtle decision to just let something be with someone. Maybe it's a very subtle decision to not say a thing. Maybe it's a very subtle decision to not do something you would normally do. Maybe it's a very subtle decision to suddenly be open to new ideas or concepts that you might not have been open to before. And when you do that, I want you to have space in your life to say, wow, I just did something different. I did something bold. I did something subtle, but for me, new. And appreciate it, revel in it, celebrate it. Just sit with the feeling of enoughness from just that first decision. And when you do that, you will start to understand your own decision-making process. You will start to understand your own decision-making patterns. And this is how you develop intuition. Many of us want to develop that, but this is the process of developing your intuition is by making decisions. And this is how you develop trust in your decisions, by starting to chart them out. See what occurred when you made decisions. Notice, how did I come to that decision? Did I just know? Did I feel it in my body somewhere? Did I hear a sound or notice a sensation or hear a voice? Did I see an image or a picture come into my mind's eye? Did I feel a variety of emotions and thoughts? And if so, what were they? So this is really becoming more intimate with yourself. This is developing emotional mastery, self-awareness that will help you make better, faster decisions. So do not think that you don't have enough information to make a decision. Realize that you might not have enough information to make a decision that you don't need to make right now. And you can let life catch up to you. And you'll find that you'll know enough at that point to make the decision you need to make then. If you let life give you the information as you start to live it, you will know enough at that point. All right, my friends. So those are the 2 decision-making protocols that are a bit unconventional. There are no right or wrong decisions. There is a decision that you want to learn from and the growth that you want to have through making that decision. And then the second one is that you know enough to make the first decision right now. And you don't need to know everything right now, but you know enough to make that first decision. And when you need to make the next one, you'll know enough then. All right, so that is it for this week, my friends. If you loved this content about developing inner trust, developing your inner authority for decision making, you will love coaching. So you can schedule a consultation for Spiritual Achiever Coaching at www.mayamson.com/contact. And you can learn how you will achieve your biggest goals without burning out. You will figure out what is next, learn who you are, and go and do the things. And we will create goals across 4 areas of your life: spirituality, achievement, which is your work and career, earth energy, which is your mind, body, practices, and harmony, which is your relationships. And we will live those things out. So this is the powerful group and private coaching hybrid experience for achievers who want more from life, to expand their vision of what's possible. You will have 12 months of support, individualized guidance to help you as you make some of your biggest decisions, and you will have community to help support you. Retreats where we will change and recalibrate the energy that you have in this life, where you will get to reset and recharge and help you shift into more expansive, maybe altered states of consciousness again and again until your life is your vision board. All right, my friends, so that is it. I will see you next time. Thanks so much for joining us this week on Own Your Best Life. Make sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts so that you'll never miss a show. And while you're at it, can you please rate and review on iTunes? I would so appreciate it. Share it with a friend, take a screenshot of it, and tag @MayEmson. This helps continue to get the word out. For more show notes and resources, check out www.mayemson.com. You'll have all the links to everything you heard here today. Thanks so much for listening. It's time to own your best life.